So what do you do on a beautiful 50-degree Pennsylvania day? Go pick up your stuff that you got at auction. I bought this off of Govdeals. This is Enco drill press that, quite honestly, I saw some stuff in the pictures that I should have paid attention to, like namely this here collar and those there hose clamps, but I didn't because I got excited and I probably paid a little bit too much for it, but I think we can fix it. And then over here, I've wanted one for a long time and this seemed to be just the right, and this is the big reason I went. This is a Craftsman 3-speed metal cutting bandsaw. It's supposed to do metal and wood, but I bought these off the University of Pittsburgh. They both have flaws, so to speak, but we'll go over that in a minute. Alright, let's get them off. So, now that we got them off, let's give them a proper inspection. Like I said, this is a Craftsman 3-speed metal cutting bandsaw. It was offered, the way I understand, the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's like a middle grade metal saw. What I mean by a middle grade is you either get your industrial like 240 volt giant monsters that, you know, take up 4 square feet of your shop, or you got like that guy back here in the corner, which is a wood bandsaw. Takes about the same footprint, but is a lot lighter, like a lot cheaper built. It's got a lot of plastic in it. You know, this is all plastic. The table's aluminum, but most of it's plastic. And then you got this guy. So this is like a step above what you would find in most homes, but it's not quite industrial, which is perfect for me because I do stuff a step above what people would do in a normal garage, but definitely not commercial. It has 3 speeds. I think it's on the fastest speed, 200 feet per minute. Yeah, but it'll go all the way down to 80. I'm not sure where I want. The only real flaws I found with it, I do have the mitering jig. I did not get the fence. I don't know where the fence is. They probably don't either. The wear plate here is, well, it's worn. It's pretty much worn out. So we'll have to look into what it takes to make a new one of those. But for right now, it's not a big concern. And the only other concern I have is right there. Those saw guides should be even, and they're not. And if you stand back and you look a little bit, it looks like it's got a bit of a to it. I saw a video, I can't think of the guy's name right now, of another guy who bought one of these a couple years ago. He paid a lot less than I did, but at the same fact is his saw, the guide here was bent, and he was able to bend it back with just force of hand and stuff. Because if you feel like right here, right now, I think we got a little bit of a gap, but if I take and slide this down, there's a little bit less of a gap. So we'll have to play with it. I'll probably take that out and see what I can do. Now, the disappointing one is this guy here. And he might take some work to get perfect. He works. Light works. Light. And that works. But what's missing is the whole bracket is broke off. That used to be the depth guide. Oh, sorry. Glare. Depth guide used to have a needle that pointed over here, and you could, you know, adjust your nuts to set it how high you want it. I'm not sure if that's a major concern of mine or not. We might try to fix it. I got half the collar, just not the other half. The other thing is, and it's kind of funny because if you read here, it's maybe a little difficult in the camera. It says do not over tighten, and they over tighten this top collar and split it. When they split it, they added in this whatcha-who's-it. So I'm not sure. Like I seen this in the pictures, but I didn't think anything of it. But it's clamped on. I don't know why they have it hose clamped down there either. Because if you come and you look at my little saw, my little drill press, you know, it just sits in that little notch, and it sits up in this notch, and that allows the whole thing to turn with the table. You know what I mean? It's not a very complex thing, but the bottom should be holding the bottom in. Excuse me. Yeah, COVID. Har har. That's funny now. 30 years from now it won't be funny. But I don't know why they would add those ones at the bottom, because it's obviously not split. But I might be able to just even weld that up and drill and tap it at a different point. What I'm feeling. We'll see. Alright, time to play with it. Alright. I got this doohickey off, and I was thinking as I was doing this, it says, you know what this reminds me of? A bearing race. Like for your car. I got me thinking, I wonder if I have one. But then again, I wouldn't have this ID. You know what I mean? I think there's a very high probability that I could weld that back together. I mean, I wouldn't get it machined perfect on the inside. There'd still be a crack. But if I zip a weld down there and then re-drill and tab it just on the other side, I think it'd be fine. I don't foresee anything. Well, let's get this sucker off. Exactly what I think this is. I think this was for, like, if you had a hole in a pipe, you could put this around it, clamp it down, and seal up your hole. So I took the hose clamps off the bottom there, 'cause I don't even know why, but as you can see, it does move. It's got a lot of crud in it. And it's probably been in the same spot so long it's rusted, but I don't know, this handle will work. It is more than likely. Yeah, it definitely needs oil. There's these little, I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. These little divots, that's where you used to put oil in them. And as you can see, it's fairly dry. Maybe I'll put a little bit of something on it. Well, no wonder. This thing is done pretzel-fied. Huh. Well, let's see if we can fix that. So, I also figured out they actually had this thing upside down, too. But I'm getting close. Got a little bit of a whoop-de-doo right there, but I mean, I'm knocking on the door of it anyway. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's oil this thing down. That, I think, is also part of the problem. We're gonna oil and Scotch-Brite it. Well, I gotta say that works a whole lot better. Now the goal with this is going to be just grind a little furrow in there, but not to grind the whole way through. Oops, sorry, not to grind the whole way through, because I just want to leave a pocket for the weld. This isn't super strong, it doesn't have to be. And then I'm going to drill and tap it from probably 180 out or so. But all it does is it keeps this thing from bowing. It just kind of is the collar that locks it in between the two ends, so it, I don't know, it doesn't flop out. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't even think you really need it. That's how uncritical it is. Because, I mean, it works right now. You know what I mean? And then, just like I said, ground out a little furrow, a little valley. We'll zap that up. Zip, 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 zip. Debating what heat to use. Well, I was definitely in danger of not too much heat. But, sorry, focus. I think it'll do for what it is. Sorry I skipped the drilling, but it went pretty good. Now for the tapping. Do not over tighten. Sorry if it's a little blurry, it's kind of foggy. Got rainy out, got clampy out. But I put some new belts on. Just went down to my local Napa. This one still seems awful loose. But, oh, wow, it did get loose. That whole thing moved in. But, I think this lever originally, and maybe it doesn't anymore, used to move these out. And I think I'll be alright. Just keep a bar handy. Yeah, because that, yeah, okay. That whole thing just moved. Maybe it got disconnected somehow. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull it and then tighten it, and then that'll be good enough for now, I imagine. But we'll see how it goes. Alright, all the rest of this, I'm going to have to order parts. I am going to grease that one fitting, and that's going to be it for today, because I got to run wifey into town. She just doesn't know what we're taking. Situation report. I hope you can see that. But, well, situation update. Wife is still not out of the house. However, I found that this shaft supposed to sit on that bar, which is how you're actually supposed to adjust the tension. And this is even better. All it needs is that nut loosened up and moved over, and we're good to go. We're like so freaking golden, it's disgusting. But yeah, this nut came loose. So we're gonna adjust that. I'll put that back on. Took 4 screws and 1 pulley, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so continuing on with what I said before, the blade guide is really off. And I watched a previous video where a guy had said that this aluminum piece had been bent. However, when I look here, I see these 2 screws, which they might be set screws for like pitch. So those could be off too. I'm gonna have to take it out basically and take a look and see what I can see as far as like put a straight edge against this, or you know, just adjust these screws, because I don't know why else they would be there. Alright, so good news, I got my smallest machinist square, which is only a 6-inch, or smallest machinist rule, which is only a 6-inch rule, but it seemed flat the whole way across. So then I got this bigger one, and there's no, or excuse me, this isn't a bigger one, it's just a bigger straight edge, just a piece of aluminum stock I had, and that's straight, so it has to be just off a little bit in the tracking. So I'm gonna take, excuse me, a little congested this morning. I'm gonna take and give these a turn and see if that adjusts it, and I can use a little piece of aluminum here to see if it moves. Let me give it a try. Well, if you play with it long enough, the answer will reveal itself. I don't know what these screws do. I think they're like a tensioner to put like drag on here, but for all intents and purposes, whenever I tighten it up the whole way, I can't crank it up and down. Oh, that's because this is tight, but I couldn't crank it up and down. I could not adjust it. So I was looking at it, I'm like, well, is this bent? Is that bent? And then what I ended up doing was just grabbing this, and look, the whole stinking thing's loose. So the reason it's tracking off center is because, well, it's off center, and I just got to tighten up some nuts. Yeah, right there in the bottom, see? Yep, these two bolts here. That's definitely loose. There's definitely some wiggle in there. So what we're gonna do is we'll probably just take this off because these are stuck, these here, and I just want to get them loose and backed off, and then we'll put the blade back in, we'll push them back in and tighten it back up, put everything back together, put the guard back on, put the blade back in, shove it back in that corner, and then we're gonna wait until the new pieces come in. I did find this on Amazon. Believe it or not, they still, if you look, search the criteria, it's 2.5 inches by 90 thousandths, and I found them on Amazon. They says for, you know, this, that, other saw, but hey, if it fits, it fits. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and get all that back together. Take this off, get these loose, put it all back together, be good. All right, let's go. So here's what's new with the saw. I went on Amazon, and like I said, you can't buy parts for this anymore, but what I found out is if you look up a 2.5 inch 90 thousandths saw table insert. You come up with this guy, and this is a replacement for a Rockwell saw, and it fits pretty good. I did have to grind, they like powder coated it, which makes it like 30 thousandths oversized, so I had to kind of buff the powder coat off, and at first I was trying to sand it down so that the edges would sit flush, but apparently what I needed to do is just cut something on it, because that saw pushing down on the material pushed this in real nice and flush. I mean, it's real nice, because I was afraid of like catching on an edge. But anyways, not affiliated by anybody. I'm not gonna put a link in the description because I don't know how, but like this is what I found, and I'm gonna keep my spare right there because why not? Now the other thing I had to do was this safety lock does not torque. You should be able to push in on it and get it to actually torque that nut, and it doesn't do that. So I ordered this guy, same thread pitch, Master Car, 5/16 18, and hopefully we'll just spin this guy off. And then, that's a little longer than I thought. Alright, there's your nut. And then this guy goes on, and you see how, like right now, that lever's moving, but that's not moving. You have to push in on it to get it to turn. So that's kind of how this thing locks down, and it keeps you from accidentally unlocking it. So as good as I can with one hand, I'm going to tighten that up. Probably do that off camera, but I already snuck and cut this piece out of a bit of strip steel, and we're going to try an experiment and see if we can build a pointer for the idea I have for the drill press to make a adjustable depth doohickey. Alright, camera says my battery's dying, time to go. So, like most of you all, I have a job and other stuff that gets in the way, so sometimes I don't get back to stuff for a little while, and this is one of those times. It's been about a week. This is the collar that I bought off of McMaster Car. It's a 2 1/16 collar. I got it to fit the quill of the drill press. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of bar stock that I have for my scrap pile, and it's about a 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to bevel the edges and round it up a little bit so it fits a little better. Now I'm going to weld this straight to the back side of this collar, and then that's what I'm going to use to mark and drill and tap to make my hole for the rod that's going to go up and down, and also have the nuts on it for the stop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it here and clamp this down and weld it tight to this plate. And then once I'm done, I'm going to put that on top, and then I'm going to flip it over and then flip this over, and with that extra piece of 1/4 inch bar stock, it sits very flush right there. And then I'll grind this smooth, and that'll make it level. And the reason I'm leaving it so long, and the reason I'm using the bar stock that I am, so I say, because 1/2 inch is pretty stout, is first off, I'll be able to drill and tap this, which is my intent. Second off is because most of the pictures I've seen of these setups, the ear that has the hole for the rod is pretty stout. I don't know. Like, I'm gonna grind it and weld it up as best as I can. But this thing, I don't like, it won't be cast like the old one. It'll be actual steel, so it shouldn't break. But I think it's also to keep it from bending. Like, if you were to make it out of like a piece of this, every time you pull down on it, it would flex. You know what I mean? So that's my goal tonight, is to get this all welded up, get my hole marked, maybe drilled and tapped, and then mark it and cut it. And the first thing I'll do is grind some of the stuff off of here, grind that bevel back in there, and make it all fit together and clamp her up. Now I'll show you that whenever I have it all clamped up and ready to weld. Alright, time to do it. So this probably isn't the best weld joint ever in the history of the world, but it might be good enough for who it's for. Yeah, let's see how it welds out. And the other reason I left this long too was because it just gives it a little more leverage, so it doesn't move up, like roll up, like you got more further out in the beam you push down, the more pressure you exert over the whole beam, that kind of a thing. But let's see what we get when we do this. So there comes a time in every project where you have to remind yourself about what it is you were actually trying to do. And I'm just trying to build a stop for my drill press depth gauge, and what I end up getting caught up in is trying to make it so it looks like this thing was factory, even though it's not. And nobody in the world is ever going to care other than me. But I got a little bit carried away trying to dress down my welds so it didn't look so globulous, and now I think we're ready for fit up. Alright, let's go put it on. So what I did now was I took my piece, stuck it on, clamped it actually loosely with this so I could rotate it, and then I got a transfer punch and I put it straight down through the hole there, and with everything clamped up and it's centered up and the transfer punch is vertical as I can make it, I gave it a little tap, and that gave me a mark. And then I went over and I center punched the mark out even bigger, and it's pretty well in the center. And if we cut it anywhere, even in here where the grind spot is, oops, that seal keeps getting in the way, it still leaves plenty of meat, and it won't interfere with the handle, because right now if I, it's not going to work. Even with it going down, it doesn't work. But I was planning on trimming that up anyway, but I'm really kind of tickled. I'm going to try to drill, tap, and cut this, and maybe give it a coat of paint. Maybe. We'll see. And then that'll be it for tonight. And then tomorrow, assemble everything. Alright. Time to drill some holes, tap some holes. Tappy tappy. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot about the missing handle. This one's from a Master Car again. And all I'm going to do is drill, tap this sucker for a 1/4 inch bolt right about there, and we'll be good to go. Let's drill this guy. Let's drill them all out, tap them all out, and catch you up in a bit. So I couldn't help but mock it up before I paint it. But it works. It rubs a little bit, just a touch. And like I said, the return spring on this thing wasn't always the best, isn't the best, but it'll get the job done. Alright, I know the lighting's a little crappy, but after a little coat of black paint, we're ready to assemble it. Let's throw it together. I did file a little bit in here, but that was just, no matter how perfect I tried to make it, it was never truly going to be perfect. So some variance was allowed, and I had to, take care of a little bit of a rub. But it shouldn't take but a couple minutes to get this sucker all together for good, for now, maybe forever. So now I'm going to try to make a pointer. And I got this piece of steel, and I cut this out on my bandsaw that I also got at that auction. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with a little bit of overhang, and then take this bolt. And my goal is to try to wrap this the whole way around, and then I'll maybe grind a little bit off the top to make it flush. And it'll sit between the two nuts, and just be an arrow. It ain't right, but at a certain point I think I gotta realize that I may not be able to get it right. I think I might have ground too much off already, because it's kind of gotta tilt the other way, but let's see how it works. I'll clean it up with a file some, and we'll try her on. Well, it doesn't look 100% factory, but it serves the purpose it needs to. And it's adjustable. Oh, my nuts got in the way. So what did I... Problems with the engineering? I know we should do like a... These are the things I don't like about this. And the only thing I can say is probably, and I mean this very loosely because, oh, wow, I didn't have it the whole way down. That's why it was like that. But anyways, I probably, and I don't see a way around it either. With the way I have everything set up, I probably am going to lose a little bit of down travel with the drill press. But at the same fact is, at least I have stops. Well, that's a clean workbench, so let's take a look at the end of the project. So the Craftsman saw, I've got to say, I'm absolutely tickled. Red, white, and blue, and pink and purple too for this saw. It's not an industrial model by any means, but it is definitely a Craftsman from back whenever Craftsman actually meant something. I don't think I'll ever wear it out. I think it is going to take the place of that saw for sure. And we're going to go and have a lot of good years together. And there's the end where the drill press is going to live. I don't know if I'm going to keep this one or not. I think I'm going to give it to my dad. It does pretty good. It's served its purpose for a lot of years, but this is just going to be that much better, I think. It's going to drill deeper, run harder, slower. I'll be able to actually run my hole saws and stuff in it. And I think I'm finally going to take this one down. I'm going to mount that grinder to it that I've actually had for about 4 years now. I just never got it out of the box because, well, this thing's pretty good. It's a little too heavy duty for what I need, and I think that one's going to serve that purpose better, but this way I get to have both, and that will replace that. And I'm just, like, everything I did to it, it didn't take much. It all came out. Now, for the final, for the price on both, I paid $260 for the drill press at auction. Welding up the collar cost me nothing. I got some WD-40 and some Scotch-Brites. I already had those, so I ain't going to total up that. The collar, the nuts, the all-thread, all that jazz that I put together for it, I'm thinking I have maybe another $30. So let's say $300, which I think is a fair market value. As an Enco, it's not as super heavy duty as like a Rockwell or a Delta, I think are the big ones. But, I mean, let's face it, this isn't a professional industrial shop. And, yeah, and for the saw, I paid $550 for the saw. The other thing I did to it was I put everything back into adjustment, cleaned the table up, gave it a nice coat of WD-40. And that little handle right there, and I think I'm into it for like another 20 bucks. So $570 for the saw, roughly total under 900 bucks. But I think I'll get a lot of years out of both.